We are all experiencing an unprecedented time in our lives right now. The level of uncertainty, anxiety, and fear can be overpowering as we learn to navigate in our new world, all doing our part, whether it be social distancing, staying home, and abiding by federal guidelines. There are so many on the front lines who are battling a war against an invisible enemy. Being on the front lines can place a person's physical and mental health in jeopardy. A team of professionals has come together and created a program called Resilient Minds on the Front Lines to bring tools, knowledge, skills, and instruction to assist in a time of need. This team is dedicated to helping those who help others. On today's webcast, our guest speaker is Samuel L. Feemster, Supervisory Special Agent, FBI retired. Samuel talks about the importance of being spiritually awake and how spiritual strength and resiliency can nurture and empower us both mentally and physically. Your hosts for today's webcast are Master Resiliency Instructor Michael Pellegrino and Dr. Michael Wiltsey, Arlington County Prosecutor's Office and licensed psychologist.
Resilient Minds on the Front Lines was created to bring you 15 minutes of hope in a world turned upside down. The topics in our webcast are all meant to help those on the front lines help themselves and others. Today, Sam Feemster talks to us about being spiritually awake and how it allows us to be present for ourselves and others during our hardest trials and tribulations. He says our powers are limitless when we learn how to be resilient in the spiritual dimension. Be safe, be healthy, be resilient.
Hello, my name is Samuel L. Feemster, Supervisory Special Agent, FBI retired. I've been asked to share a little of my story that speaks to the urgent need for spiritual strength during times of discomfort and uncertainty. If you are listening to this channel as a human being, I suspect you have a story, conscious or unconscious, about spiritual resiliency and the assurance of being spiritually awake as well. Spiritual resiliency nurtures or empowers us mentally and physically. In 1988, I competed against fellow first responders in a regional police Olympic event held at the Sylvan Theater on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. That year, I squatted 565 pounds, pressed 350 pounds, and pulled 600 pounds. Not a bad day for a novice powerlifter. Everything aligned perfectly. It was a good day. However, a day at the park is not a typical day in the life of dedicated workers across all vocations, especially those called to serve their neighbors in times of discomfort and uncertainty, times such as we are now experiencing. Discomfort includes everything from slight personal pain to the uneasiness of being dispatched to a crime in progress or a house fire or transporting a human suffering cardiac arrest or going home after treating infected humans at the local hospital, praying that you are not putting your family at risk. Uncertainty means not knowing what you're going to encounter at the crime scene, house fire, hospital, or your own home after an imprecise incubation period. Regardless of our physical strength, in times like these, none of us can push one moment of any day out of the way so we can bring the next hour or any portion of tomorrow into our present moment. Not one of us truly knows when this pandemic, or any uncertainty for that matter, will end. However, all of us must be spiritually awake to serve ourselves and others in the midst of our trials and tribulations. Others are counting on us, particularly in desperate or dangerous situations. These are the times when essential workers must rely on their strength of their spiritual capital reserves, invisible wealth cultivated and conserved by personifying the virtues of justice, prudence, temperance, and fortitude through the routine of daily life. We persist as we wholeheartedly embrace our capacity to create spiritual capital for the benefit of others. This noble calling includes acknowledging and actively advocating for resources to sustain professionals, craftsmen, artisans, and laborers from all disciplines and vocations across all levels. We persist as those who courageously and unselfishly serve our nation as first responders, no matter the catastrophe or disease visited upon us. Our calling is inherently spiritual, for there is no greater love for anyone than for those who sacrifice our lives to serve and protect others. In 2017, I competed in the World Police and Fire Games in Los Angeles, California. On push-pull day, I pressed 375 pounds and pulled 475 pounds. It does not take a genius to conclude that in LA, I was older and weaker. That is the decaying nature of physicality. We reach our peak and then inevitably decline. As a society, we value physical development and strength training over and above the atomic power of spiritual strength, especially for first responders. Unfortunately, we do this to the detriment of our individual and collective potential, sacrificing safety and human flourishing in the process. We spend the greater part of our lives operating in 4 dimensions: physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual. Of these 4, our physical dimension is the smallest, weakest, and the most limited. On the other hand, the limitless power of our spiritual dimension to provide comfort and assurance for ourselves and our neighbors is immeasurable. We must redirect our future priorities in order to face overwhelming odds and unanticipated hazards. During times of local and global disquiet, first responders across all vocations and under every conceivable human adversity are best fortified by the resilient capacity to holistically thrive while delivering human service in both static and dynamic circumstances. Essential workers must be able to absorb the putrid perfume of decay, the polarizing power of pungent remarks, and the pervasive presence of prejudicial polarization while responding to their inherent duty to serve humanity. Regardless of one's physical strength or the collective power of our economic engines, spiritual resiliency is the only fortification against such penetrating toxicity. Communities, and ultimately our nation, would be better served in such times if all citizens were safeguarded by the assurance of and access to basic dignities, including equitable protection and service. Because of the dearth of spiritual capital in our society, first responders on the front lines need a cultivated spiritual intelligence to access intrinsic contentment, the essential protection for the human spirit. Spiritual intelligence is the playing field upon which all other intelligences mature. Absent spiritual intelligence, the potential of all other training is unrealized, promoting unacceptable performance in times of calm, dismay, and distress. We often burn out and self-destruct to the viruses of toxicity apart from spiritual resiliency. Studies demonstrate that the human spirit can be damaged by repeated exposures to sudden or prolonged fear and insecurity. Neither physical strength nor cognitive training can morph into a protective shield for our damaged spirits. Interior damage, it diminishes one's capacity to protect or serve. Essential workers need spiritual resilience so they can bounce back and move forward. My competitive powerlifting days are over. Now I have my Napoleon grill, gliding rocker, and shaded patio for excitement. Spiritually, however, I'm getting stronger every day. In addition to pastoring a small congregation in Arlington, Virginia, at the John Leland Center for Theological Studies, we have established the Institute for Justice Formation. Our purpose is to investigate and promote the transformative power of biblical justice in ways that foster enduring, robust relationships across all disciplines and vocations. We exist so that communities can be awakened to provide substantial resources for essential workers so that when called upon, first responders have the temperance, prudence, and fortitude to do what is just and right in times of intolerable levels of hardship, unpredictability, and beyond. During a recent exam, one student offered these reflections that I believe speak to the strength we need in order to do what is just and right in times of discomfort and uncertainty. I quote, "I grew up in a community with no attorneys or physicians and get frustrated when those whom society does not label as professionals are overlooked. The recent COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light the equality of all and the dignity of persons often overlooked or looked down upon by society, including bus drivers, grocery clerks, and the personnel who support physicians and serve patients, all of whom are now at great risk in their service to others." End quote. Now, friends, That is spiritual resilience that fortifies. That is what we must pay forward. Thank you for allowing me to share a little of my story. I pray that the certainty of God's promises to authentic servant leaders brings you comfort and that you experience spiritual resiliency in His strength. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Michael Wiltsey. I'm part of the team here at Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. In today's video, Supervisory Special Agent Retired Samuel Feemster discussed the importance of spiritual resilience and how important it is for us to call upon our spirituality and to be spiritually awake, as he describes it. He emphasized the benefit of spiritual strength for our first responders during all times of discomfort and uncertainty, but especially during times like we are experiencing right now. Now, the goal of spiritual resilience is to strengthen our beliefs, our principles, and our values that sustain our sense of purpose. Spiritual resilience is about how we view ourselves in a larger context or framework of the world. It's the idea that there is someone or something that is greater and larger than ourselves. As Samuel points out in his discussion and the story that he tells about a student who reflects on how so many workers are serving their fellow citizens right now, he described that situation as exemplifying spiritual strength and resilience during the current pandemic. Importantly, Samuel reminds us that spirituality is a collective responsibility of all humanity that cuts across all occupations and endeavors, referencing values of justice, prudence, temperance, and fortitude. Samuel talked about a calling, how certain professions, such as those of our essential workers right now, are grounded in spirituality, and that these workers are serving something that is much larger than themselves, as they support their fellow human beings by providing critical services during these adverse times. So to all the essential workers out there and the varied occupations doing work for the benefit of their fellow human beings on the front lines and beyond, thank you from all of us at Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. As Samuel stated, so many are counting on you during these days, and you are delivering every day. Please do not take that lightly. You are serving something that is far greater than yourselves. You are serving humanity. Remember that. Call upon that. And as Samuel put it, rely on the strength of your capital reserves of your spirituality. I encourage you to get in touch with your spiritual resilience. Find ways to build your spiritual resilience by asking questions to yourself about who is being helped or who is benefiting from the work or the tasks that I am performing on a daily basis. Think beyond the day-to-day and reframe your life experiences into a broader context of the purpose and meaning of your work, your life experiences, and your other activities. Supervisory Special Agent Retired Samuel Feemster told us that spiritual resilience nurtures us and empowers us both physically and mentally. And as an experienced powerlifter, he explained that while our physical development and capabilities have limits, our spiritual development is without limits. So keep exercising and growing your spiritual resilience. It is an incredibly important tool in your overall resilience, and it will assist you in handling adversity. Thank you to Supervisory Special Agent Retired Samuel Feemster for this eloquent and powerful message on the importance of spiritual resilience. Be safe, be healthy, be resilient.
During the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, your mental health is vital. Please see the resources listed here as well as on our website at onthefrontlines.us. You are not alone.